Shabbos even.
Shalom everyone. I wanted to share with you a short machshava on Parshas Tetzave. Parshas Truma gave us the instructions regarding putting up the Mishkan and the Kalim of the Mishkan. Parshas Tetzave is mamshech regarding primarily the Bigdei Kahuna, the special garments that both the Kohen Gadol wears and the Kohen Hedget wears, and these garments are extremely important. If a Kohen does an Aveda not properly dressed, he is called a Mechusar Bigadim, and not only is he Oivran and Avera, but the Aveda itself is the Gamri Puzzle. One of the unique garments that the Kohen Gadol wore was what was called the Choshen. This is the breastplate, and on the breastplate there are 12 jewels, and on each jewel is engraved a name of one of the tribes of Bnei Yisrael. So there's not Ephraim and Menashe. There's 12 because Levi is counted, and Yosef includes Ephraim and Menashe. And in addition, there is the words Shiftei Yeshurun, meaning the 12 tribes who are the tribes of uprightness. This is what the Gemara in Yuma says, that in addition to Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, it said Shiftei Yeshurun, engraved on the stones. So the emes is, there's a kasha the Chassam Sofer asks, that the Rambam says Shiftei Ka. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, the Shvatim, Shiftei Ka. So frek the Chassam Sofer that even though the Rambam may have a marker from the Yerushalmi, but the Bavli Taka says Shiftei Yeshurun. So why does the Rambam say Shiftei Ka? So the Chassam Sofer offers a very beautiful interpretation. This well-known Gemara in Kedushin, when the Gemara in Kedushin talks about the mitzvah of Kibbud Aviyim, so it uses a non-Jew, Dama ben Nesina from Ashkelon, as a paradigm of what is the great level of Kibbud Aviyim. And state in the Gemara that Pam Achas, Ovda Yashva mi Binyamin. Yashva was a very precious stone. Some actually say it was a diamond, although in modern Hebrew, Yahalom is a diamond, which is another Eben, but some say B'lashon HaTorah, Yashva would be a diamond, and this was the last stone. It popped out, and they needed to get that precious stone. And Dama ben Nesina had that jewel, but the key to the jewelry case was under his father's pillow, and his father was sleeping. And Dama ben Nesina refused to wake up his father, and apparently the Chachamim had to make a deal right away. So he was mafsid that deal in order not to be Mitzayir of his father. And the Gemara tells us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu rewarded him that the next year he had a para aduma that was born in his flock, and he was able to get the same amount of money he would have got for the Yoshva stone that was Avda mi Binyamin. In fact, they actually offered him more money, but he said, I don't want to take any more than I would have gotten from there. L'maisa, the whole story of Dama ben Nesina is halachically shver. I mean, l'maisa, if your father would want you to wake him up, then you're supposed to wake him up. So if I tell my father, oh, Tati, I did such a covet for you, I was offered $10 million and I didn't want to wake you up, it's not so pashut the father would be nicha. But nevertheless, the Gemara brings this maisa as an example of Kibbud Aviyim. Now the Chassam Sofer says, why punked at that particular moment, at that particular juncture in time, was the stone of, why was there a stone Bechlal that pops out? That never happened in all of the years before. And if a stone popped out of the Choshen, why was it Bedavka, the stone of Binyamin? So state in Chassam Sofer that number one, the words Shiftei Yeshurun were engraved on the stone of Binyamin, which was the last stone, and for a very good reason. Because the word Yeshurun comes from the word Yashar. And Yashar connotes when Klal Yisrael is living with Ava and Achdus. Yashar is particularly a lashon, Bein Adam Lechaverei, Yashras, uprightness. The Netziv makes the same point when he calls Sefer Bereshis. Chazal say it's called Sefer HaYashar. and that's primarily because of midas tevais and bein adam lechaverei. It's specifically appropriate that Shevet Binyamin would have the appellation or carry the title representative of Klal Yisrael as Shiftei Yeshurun, because Shevet Binyamin was the only Shevet that had no taint of Sinas Chinam. All the other brothers who participated in Mechiras Yosef, they have Sinas Chinam. And even Yosef himself brought Lashon Hara about his brothers to Yaakov, whether for good reason or not, but nevertheless, Yosef was a fomenter of a certain amount of machlekes. But it's only Shevet Binyamin that has no sinna, no rivalry, no machlekes, no shaykhs to anything. So Shevet Binyamin represents the highest madrega of Ava and Achdus, untainted by sinas chinam. In fact, the Sfarim HaKadoshim say that this is why the Gemara says in Baba Basra that the zera of Esav and Amalek will only fall through the zera of Rachel. And part of it is because the Kayach of Binyamin was given the mitzvah of Mechias Amalek, because Binyamin is free of sinas chinam. Now Rachel also includes Yosef, because Yosef was not as guilty as the other brothers. But the sinas chinam of Esav and Amalek can only be defeated by Rachel's children, and not by Leah's children, who have the begam of sinas chinam. So, number one, Shevet Yeshifte Yeshurun is merames to the madrega of Achdus, as the pasuk says, Vayihi Bishurun Melech Bihisasef Rashi Yachad Shiftei Yisrael. Right in Zayis HaBracha, Hashem is the Melech B'Yeshurun Bihisasef Rashi So Shiftei Yeshurun is merames to Achdus, and Achdus means lack of sinas chinam and avas Yisrael. And of all of the brothers, Binyamin represents the highest level of Achdus and avas Yisrael. And that is why Shiftei Yeshurun appears on the stone of Binyamin. But in that tekuf of the Bayesheni, Klal Yisrael no longer merited the Yashva of Binyamin, because we are told that the tekufa of the Bayesheni, there was sinas chinam, and therefore bidafka, the stone of Binyamin upon which was engraved Shiftei Yeshurun, popped out. They had to buy a new stone. They had to replace it. So says the Chasam Sofer, this is the aside of the Rambam. Since they understood that they lost the Yashva because they were not ra'oi to be Shiftei Yeshurun, so even when they were masakin it with a new stone, they could no longer put Shiftei Yeshurun on the stone. So they had to put Shiftei Ka. Apparently, neither of them is ma'akev, either one is kosher, but they saw they were not roi for Yeshurun, and therefore they put Shiftei Ka. So that's the makar of the Rambam. The Rambam is maida that originally they did Shiftei Yeshurun, but Lamaisa, with the Yeridas Hadeiros and the Begam of Sinas Chinam, they had to revise it to Shiftei Ka when it was of the Yashve mi Binyamin. The emesis, this is also going to be Parshas Zachor, where we remember the hatred of Amalek, the hatred that had no reason. And once again, just as Chazal say, the Zera Amalek can be defeated only by Zera Rachel. This reminds us that only through Avas Yisrael, only through Achdus, only through unity, will we have the Kayach to be miskaber over Amalek. May all of us be Zeicha to achieve this level, to become Zeicha to the Midah of Yeshurun, Vayi Bishurun Melech, B'Yisasev Rashayam. And then, all of the Hamans of the world, all of the Amaleks of the world, will be Nimcha, will be destroyed, and we should be Zeicha to the Geula Shalema B'Meira. A good Shabbos.